Singapore will apply significantly stricter measures to help keep COVID-19 infections in check. Most workplaces will be closed and schools will implement home-based learning in full. There'll also be tighter restrictions on movements and gatherings. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, in a live televised address to the nation, has described the measures as a circuit breaker. And he says authorities will no longer discourage the use of face masks as coronavirus cases go undetected in the community.
Singapore's multi-ministry task force on COVID-19 has released further details of the measures announced by the Prime Minister. Workplaces that are exempted from closure are those that provide essential services. These include health, social and selected care services, food retailers, supply and delivery, public and private transport services, as well as banking and finance. The full list can be found online at covid.gobusiness.gov.sg. Penalties will apply to those who flout the regulations.
Previously, we said that even if you were not operating essential services, some activity could be allowed at the workplace if there was no way for those activities to be done remotely. But now, we need all premises to close, and none of those workplace activities should continue. This is unless you are providing essential services or you have gotten a special approval from the Ministry of Trade and Industry.
All schools, from primary to institutes of higher learning, will shift to full home-based learning starting Wednesday. This includes special education schools. Mid-year examinations will be cancelled, but national exams will proceed. Classes will resume on the 5th of May. All preschools, kindergartens and student care centres will also be suspended during this period. The Education Minister says schools had been kept open to prevent parents' lives from being disrupted. He also notes that while many had called for schools to be closed, there hasn't been any transmission reported within schools.
If the virus behaved more like influenza, affecting children more and making children the vectors for transmission, we would have closed schools long ago. But COVID-19, because of the way it behaves, it gives us the option of keeping schools open, provided there are stringent precautionary measures, and that has been what we are doing. So by keeping schools open, this prevented a major disruption to people's lives. It also avoided the situation where school closed and students, especially the teenagers, start roaming around the community, exposing themselves to more risk. So keeping school open, keeping it safe with precautionary measures has been a plus.
Singapore will impose significantly stricter measures for a month starting next week to reduce the spread of COVID-19. These include shutting most workplaces, getting schools to shift to full home-based learning, and tightening restrictions on movement and gatherings. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong announced this in a live televised address to the nation earlier today, where he likened the move to a circuit breaker that will help bring the number of cases down.
Most workplaces will be closed from next Tuesday, except those in key economic sectors or providing essential services like supermarkets, hospitals and transport. F&B outlets can also stay open, though only for takeaway and delivery. As for schools, they will shift to full home-based learning from next Wednesday, up from once a week currently. Preschools and student care centres will be closed, but they will still provide limited services for parents without alternative arrangements. The measures will be in place till 4th of May and come as the number of new cases has gone up, with more local cases and clusters.
We have decided that instead of tightening incrementally over the next few weeks, we should make a decisive move now to preempt escalating infections. We will therefore impose significantly stricter measures. This is like a circuit breaker. It will help to reduce the risk of a big outbreak occurring. We all have to take social distancing extremely seriously in this period, because this is the only effective way to slow the transmission of the virus so that we gradually bring our numbers down. It's also the best way to keep our families safe and particularly to protect our seniors from getting ill. So please, bear with the painful adjustments that we have to make.
Mr. Lee reassured Singaporeans that the country has enough food supplies and there is no need to rush to stock up, acknowledging that the measures will impact workers and firms severely. He said more support is on the way for households and businesses. These will be announced by Deputy Prime Minister Heng Swee Keat in Parliament on Monday. Besides implementing the circuit breaker, Singapore is also changing its advice on face masks in light of the evolving situation and new evidence.
We now think there are some cases out there in the community going undetected, though probably still not that many. We also now have evidence that an infected person can show no symptoms and yet still pass on the virus to others. This is why the World Health Organization is reviewing the issue of face masks, and so is the US Communicable Diseases Center, CDC. Therefore, we will no longer discourage people from wearing masks. Wearing a mask may help to protect others in case you have the virus but don't know it. This is so that you keep your droplets to yourself when you sneeze or when you speak or cough. It can also protect yourself a little better, especially if you're elderly or vulnerable because of pre-existing health conditions.
Mr. Lee said reusable masks will be distributed to all Singapore households from this Sunday. This will give the public some added protection while helping to conserve surgical masks for healthcare workers in clinics and hospitals. However, he stressed that people still need to wash their hands and practice safe distancing. Mr. Lee added that even with the stepped-up measures, the number of cases is still likely to increase in the next few days. That's because some who have already been infected may be asymptomatic or have not seen a doctor. Mr. Lee said the next few weeks will be pivotal, and if the country keeps up its efforts, it should be able to bring numbers down and get into a more sustainable position. He thanked frontline workers for their sacrifices and efforts and said the country must now join them on the front line.
It will be a long fight, but if any country can see this through, it is Singapore. We have the resources, we have the determination, we are united. By helping one another through this, we will prevail and emerge stronger.
Tan Se Hui explains why Singapore has decided to step up its containment measures.
Now, it's been 1 week since the newest set of safe distancing measures have been put in place, and so the ministers have been looking at this daily, and they have seen a worrying trend. They say they cannot wait any further because the number of unlinked local cases have been rising. In fact, that makes up half of total local cases every day. So there's a likelihood of undetected or even hidden cases within the community. So and we can actually expect to see more cases popping up. And at the moment, the hospitals still can cope with cases coming in, but should there be a sharp rise in the number of new cases coming in, the hospitals may be overwhelmed. That's why they are expecting to break the chain of transmission. Mr. Lawrence Wong, he did say that it's a painful decision because it will be a disruption to livelihoods for Singaporeans, but he urged Singaporeans to understand because this is necessary to protect citizens.
The rules are simple, and we hope everyone takes this seriously. Stay at home. There's no more rule of 10 or whatever number. Just stay at home. Avoid interactions with anyone outside of your family members living together with you in the same household. Beyond that, you can go out for essential things. If your work is essential, if you need to buy some food and groceries. But if you go out and you are unable to avoid close contact with others when you are out, then wear a mask.